Near protocol is what Ethereum wants to be because they have sharding live right now, whereas Ethereum won't have that for a couple more years. But even though their tech is strong, Near protocol has been flying under the radar for most of its existence. That is until recently, when I've been noticing more and more buzz about them on crypto Twitter. That's why I chose Near to cover next. And as always, we'll ask our million-dollar question: is Near protocol worth the hype? Well, to answer that question, let's look at 4 pros and 3 cons before getting to my final verdict. But first, what is Near protocol anyways? Well, they are a layer 1 blockchain just like Ethereum or Solana, and they use proof of stake, like a lot of other blockchains do. But what makes them special is their sharding implementation, which few other blockchains can boast. Their mainnet went live in mid-2020, and their sharding implementation went live in November 2021. Their team consists of some of the best developers and researchers in the world, hailing from Google, MemSQL, and some of them even won an international programming competition before. In terms of the token, it's called Near, and it's used for the following: paying transaction fees, storing data on-chain, voting on governance proposals, and rewarding validators. They launched with a total supply of 1 billion tokens, but that amount increases every year because of their fixed 5% inflation. Of that 5% amount, 90% goes to the validators, while 10% goes to the protocol treasury. And in terms of transaction fees, 70% is burned, while 30% goes to dApps that generated those fees. Okay, that's it for my quick overview. Now for the fun stuff, my thought-provoking pros and cons. But first, a quick shout out to our video sponsors AAX. They are a crypto exchange that launched in 2019 and now serves over 2 million users around the world. They offer deep liquidity, high security, and just has a high performing platform overall. On their exchange, you can trade over 160 spot pairs and over 30 futures pairs with up to 100x leverage. But besides that, they also offer peer-to-peer fiat trading, high yield savings accounts, OTC services, and much more. One cool thing they have is their half-price tokens promotion, where they pick some hot projects and offer huge discounts on their tokens. Right now they're doing it for 2 up-and-coming projects, LooksRare and Radium. But that doesn't last forever. That campaign ends on February 17th, so you gotta check them out soon if you're interested. They also have a new DeFi staking service where you can get up to 80% APY on popular coins like AXS. Any of that sounds interesting to you? Check them out using my link down below. Alright, so my pro number 1 is that Near protocol has a great architecture. Their network boasts 3,000 transactions per second, finality in 2 seconds, and gas fees of around 1 cent. Those are stellar numbers, of course, but the interesting part is how they accomplish that. And one way they accomplish that is through their sharding implementation called Nightshade. Nightshade lets them scale linearly with the number of shards, so they will always be able to satisfy demand as adoption grows. Other blockchains without sharding may seem scalable now, but they will eventually hit an upper limit on what they can handle. Near protocol also has some exciting stuff on their roadmap like chunk sharding, which will lower hardware requirements for validators, and dynamic resharding, which allows the network to adjust the number of shards based on utilization, so they can handle usage spikes better. Besides sharding, another piece of their architecture I like is their staking design. For example, many blockchains make you wait a long time after unstaking before you can move around your coins again. But for Near, their unbonding period is only 1 to 2 days, while Cosmos and Polkadot make you wait 3 to 4 weeks. Near's staking process is also designed to disincentivize big pools. They do this with something called thresholded proof of stake, which guarantees that you get your fair share even if you're staking with a smaller amount. The benefit here is that the network can become more decentralized if we don't have a bunch of super pools dominating the show. Alright, next up, my pro number 2 is that Near excels at interoperability. And there's really 3 pieces to the puzzle here. First is Aurora, which is an Ethereum virtual machine built directly on the Near protocol. Aurora lets developers bring over their existing dApps and run them with fast speeds and low fees. Something super interesting here is that fees on Aurora are actually paid in ETH instead of their Near token. The second piece is the Rainbow Bridge, which facilitates asset transfers between Ethereum and Near. It supports all ERC20 tokens, and so far, there's been almost $900 million worth of assets bridged over. Finally, the third piece is Octopus Network, which is a network that lets you launch application-specific blockchains. It's built on Near, but it also contains the best parts of Polkadot and Cosmos. For example, any app chain that launches on Octopus will have out-of-the-box interoperability with any IBC-enabled blockchain. Octopus also utilizes a leased security model, which is pretty similar to Polkadot's shared security model. Anyways, the overarching takeaway here is that Near has so many options and features for interoperability, and that can only help them grow because it enables more users and assets to flow through their ecosystem. Now, interoperability is cool, but at the end of the day, you need builders that are dedicated to your ecosystem. And Near gets this, which is why my pro number 3 is that they're super developer friendly. For example, Near is compatible with EVM, Rust, and Wasm, so developers can choose from several popular languages to write their smart contracts. And if their smart contracts get used, they get royalties from it too. 30% of gas fees from people using their smart contracts flows back to them, which is freaking amazing because that's incentives directly built in on the protocol level. But if that's not enough, there's also the massive $800 million fund that will be spread out across teams in their ecosystem. That's one of the largest ecosystem funds in the entire crypto space, and it really speaks to their dedication to help builders succeed. That's why I'm not surprised at all to see Near coming in at number 3 overall in terms of ecosystems with the fastest growing full-time developers. But in terms of long-term success, builders are only half of the story. There's also the end users that need to be taken care of. And Near understands this, which is why my pro number 4 is that they're designed to be as user-friendly as possible. They have human-readable addresses like kevin.near, and that's built in directly on the protocol layer rather than having some separate dApp implemented. They also let developers prepay gas for their application, which means us end users can enjoy a gas-free experience. There's also something called Near drops, which allows you to send someone Near tokens through a link so they can receive it even if they don't have a wallet or account. And speaking of their wallet, you can stake directly from it, and it even has a defined token list, so you don't have to add all those random tokens yourself. Lastly, they have predictable pricing for gas, so you don't have to worry about overpaying like we do on Ethereum sometimes. To be honest, all these features may seem small, but together they add up to an amazing user experience that I wish every chain would offer. By now you're probably ultra bullish and itching to buy some Near, but hold up, because I have 3 concerns that we gotta consider first. Concern number 1 is that they're lagging behind on some key adoption metrics, like their TVL is less than Elrond, and their number of daily transactions is less than Phantom, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. Like, what could explain this difference? Well, my theory is that their metrics suffer because they don't have a lot of retail interest, and I think there's 2 main reasons for this. First is their lackluster marketing. John Wang, who's actually a big supporter of Near protocol, puts it best when he wrote that Near's biggest weakness is its marketing. And I think a reason why their marketing is weak is their community guilds. Near is actually super community driven. Like, they have these guilds that are in charge of different functions like legal, marketing, etc. Which sounds great in theory, but when it comes to marketing / branding, I believe that a centralized top-down approach would be more effective. And the second reason for the lack of retail interest is that their token is not available on most US exchanges. So if it's hard for people to buy Near, that means less organic advocates, and that means slower growth and adoption. Some people posit that US exchanges will list them once they become more decentralized. And that's actually my concern number 2, that they're pretty centralized right now. They currently have 100 validators, which is an improvement from the 60 they had last year. But the stake distribution is really top heavy. So the top 6 validators collectively hold over 36% of the stake. That amount is enough to collude and attack the network if they wanted to. So Near desperately needs more validators and a wider stake distribution in order to improve their security. But on that note, there's a lot of hurdles you need to get past in order to become a validator. First, you have to apply and get accepted by the Near Foundation. Second, you need over $1 million worth of Near to get in the top 100. And third, you need to buy expensive hardware to host their nodes. So with all of those requirements, it's no surprise that the validator set is centralized. And that's a huge problem because currently only validators can participate in governance. So we effectively have a centralized group of insiders making all the decisions. Finally, my concern number 3 is that their tokenomics may be suppressing their token's price. Near actually has a pretty aggressive vesting schedule for all their initial tokens. If we look at this chart, we can see how their circulating supply has more than tripled since late 2020. And for more granularity, we can look at this chart, which shows how the different buckets for their token get unlocked over time. If you look closely, you'll see that their token sale and early backer buckets grow super fast over the first 2 years. And these early investors are still up like 30x right now. So it makes sense for them to consistently take profits as their tokens unlock. And that's a steady stream of selling pressure that the market has to soak up. And on top of that, there's a constant 5% inflation per year, which is quite a lot. I mean, staking plus the fee burden should help counteract some of that inflation, but either way, there's significant inflationary and selling pressure that we should expect for a few years. And we may have to wait for these to subside before NEAR can really rocket. Alright, those are my pros and cons, and now it's time for my final verdict. As for whether or not NEAR is worth the hype, I say yes it is. I give them an 8.5 out of 10 on my personal scale, which is quite high. I specifically loved their world-class team, their sharding implementation, and how they kept builders and end users in mind when designing the network. In terms of my concerns, I think those can be fixed over time, and some of them are also just temporary in nature. For example, I fully expect them to get listed on more US exchanges in 2022 and 2023. And once this market weakness subsides, I don't see why we can't have a NEAR season just like we had a Solana and Avalanche seasons back in 2021. Let me know what you think about NEAR protocol, or if you think I got something wrong, then just comment down below so we can all take a look. But in the meantime, check out this video where I analyze Algorand's pros and cons, or check out this one where I analyze Phantom and come to a pretty contrarian conclusion. I'll see you on the next one, and cheers!